This is the Bahamas Tonight, the Northern Edition. Good evening, all. I'm Shasheena. Rolle. As always, it is so great to have you with us. Topping news, police investigating the death of a man near a resort property in West End today. The man's body was found floating this morning. Joan Davis-Rolle picks up that story.
Old Bahama Bay, known as a playground for the rich and famous, but early Tuesday morning it became a crime scene when the body of a man was found here, floating in the water in the marina at Old Bahama Bay. It was a flurry of activity at West End's premier resort as police and other officials rushed to the resort property, a clear indication that something out of the norm was going on. The focal point was the yachtman's paradise, the marina, where a team of investigators were seen combing the area along the dock in search of clues. Resort executive at Old Bahama Bay, Jackie Carroll, recounted the shocking turn of events shortly after 10 a.m. when officials there were alerted by an employee that tragedy had struck at the start of what was expected to be a normal day.
The employee is an employee of the laundry, and he does his rounds every morning to go around to the rooms to collect the linen that needs to be laundered for the day. And on his rounds, he noticed something unusual because you become accustomed to seeing things the way they are, and he noticed unusual that there was a what seemed to be a striped shirt in the marina. So he walked and he followed, and he realized that it was not just a shirt; it was actually a body, which is when he alerted authorities.
While police officials remain tight-lipped about the incident, Carroll says the victim, a visitor whose identity is being withheld pending notification of next of kin, was a caretaker of a mega gray yacht bearing a British flag, the largest yacht currently docked at the facility.
I never met him personally, but I do know that some of our employees at the marina had spoken with him last night. He had dinner in the restaurant last night, and he appeared to be doing just fine. And he left, and this morning we discovered him in the water.
Now, you said an employee discovered him. He was floating in the water. Was he lodged between the rocks? What exactly?
He was against the rock because I think the tide probably pushed him against the rock, but he was still in the marina.
While some visitors sailing into the marina were oblivious to the entire turn of events, others like John Herschler of Wyoming were curious about the entire ordeal.
We come here every year. We usually go to the Abacos or the Exumas, but this is our first port of call, and we really like it here. And it's quiet and enjoyable place to be, and then we're just surprised to see all the police and the ambulance, the hearse that pulled up and everything. So it was a real surprise. This is our first day this year in the Bahamas. We didn't expect this.
A police-led hearse carrying the victim's body was later seen leaving the resort. Joan Davis-Rolle, ZNS Network News.
Now this just in, police are calling the incident an alleged drowning, and note that a post-mortem will be performed to determine the exact cause of death. According to police, the victim is believed to be an American citizen. The two Grand Bahama men who were arrested following that $3 million drug bust in Freeport were remanded to prison today, the two answering charges before Magistrate Andrew Forbes in New Providence. 49-year-olds Michael Calix of Bayshore and Midshipman Road and Marvin Bridgewater, age 36, of number 33 Fiddler Green, were arraigned on charges of possession of dangerous drugs with the intent to supply and conspiracy to possess dangerous drugs with the intent to supply. Both men were arrested on Sunday when officers armed with a search warrant went to a residence on Bayshore and Midshipman Road, searched the house and an Isuzu truck, and discovered 102 kilos of suspected cocaine. Police say further investigations led officers to a house on Fiddler's Green and discovered 4 large coolers with 56 tape packages of suspected marijuana. In court today, Calix and Bridgewater both pled not guilty and were remanded in prison until August 9 for the beginning of a trial. Also from the court, the woman who punched a man in the face and stole his cell phone in the Locaia area had her day in court yesterday. 19-year-old Teresa Adderley of Coral Reef Estates, seen on your screen wearing the gray blouse, appeared before Magistrate Charlton Smith. She pled guilty to the charge of robbery and was given a conditional discharge. Adderley was then ordered to pay compensation to the complainant in the amount of $500 and must perform 200 hours of community service. In default, Adderley will be sentenced to 3 months behind bars. Well, a local Christian ministry targeted by vandals, and tonight the leader is speaking out. Sabrina Brown has this story.
President of the Freeport Hebrew Congregation on East Sunrise Highway, Anthony G., says he was off the island for a week, and when he returned to the synagogue on Monday, he discovered that it had been vandalized.
There's complete destruction and malevolent damage to the inside of the building. Inside, they've desecrated the Holy Temple. They've been in there. They've ransacked the office. They've done some destruction outside the building.
He says from all indication, the culprits were in search of copper and bronze, leaving behind thousands of dollars in damage.
They've cut the wires to the security lights outside the building. They've taken the meter, the power meter off the wall outside. They've taken the power fuse panel inside the kitchen. They've cut all the wires to that, taken all the copper from that. They took some memorial plaques off the wall inside the temple, some of which are made of copper and bronze.
The Hebrew congregation was established in 1973, and G says while they've had a few break-ins in the past, the damage this time around is much more extensive and disturbing.
Very, very disturbing. It was unnecessary. They went into the Ark of the Covenant. They went inside that. The Ark where we keep the Holy Scrolls, the Torah. They went inside that. They damaged inside that. And just malevolent damage, unnecessarily.
G says a service is usually held at the synagogue once a week on Friday evening. However, the ministry has not been consistent recently due to circumstances beyond their control.
We haven't been able to have services for the last 2 or 3 months because we've had a lack of congregation due to people being sick, due to people passing away. So we need 10 people for a service, and we've been unable to get that.
The religious leader had this message for those responsible for this criminal act.
Pray to God for forgiveness.
Sabrina Brown, ZNS Network News.
2 students nursing injuries after being knocked down yesterday. Police say the 2 boys, ages 12 and 13, were using a pedestrian crossing on West Atlantic Drive 4:30 in the afternoon when they were struck by a green 1998 Chevy Blazer driven by a female of Pinedale 8 Mile Walk. Both victims were taken to hospital. One of the students was discharged while the other is detained in stable condition. Meanwhile, police are investigating another traffic mishap involving a pedestrian that occurred at the intersection of Pinehurst Way and East Atlantic Drive. Reports say around 7:30 last night, a man was attempting to cross the street on Pinehurst Way when he was hit by a 2002 Dodge Caravan driven by a female. He was taken to hospital where he is listed in stable condition. Police are advising motorists to drive with extreme caution and care and to look out for pedestrians. Now, police are hoping to avert such accidents on the streets involving students. Traffic police taking the road safety message to schools this week. Now, you may recall that last week a 5th grade of the Freeport Primary School was struck by a car while walking to school. Concerned about incidents involving students, traffic officers assembled a team to visit the schools. Freeport Primary was the first stop.
Thought it fitting to come out here this morning to be able to sensitize the students, the teachers, and the parents with proper road safety procedures. I have with me WPC Lewis, and 2 of my cyclists, Fines and Nesbitt, who are here in an effort to sensitize each student, each teacher, and each parent. They're very receptive of it.
Now, ASP Taylor says police use the opportunity to remind the students about other important road safety measures, including safety belts.
Children do the most innocent things. You know, I began the process by asking how many of your parents ride without being without wearing a seatbelt, and I raised my hand, and just about 5% of the students raised their hands. So this is a way to get our message out. We intend to cover all of the schools in Grand Bahama with the view of sensitizing them, because our pedestrian-related accidents were a little bit too high last year, so our objective is to reduce that in 2014.
Well, tonight police are monitoring another disturbing trend impacting motorists, and officials are advising vehicle owners to be aware. Megan Shepard fills us in.
During the Christmas season, members of the Royal Bahamas Police Force began to see an increase in the amount of cars being broken into, and it was then that they began their campaign of offering tips to the public. Tonight, Inspector Teresita Pinder is reiterating those tips to the public on how not to be a victim of car theft.
We're asking members of the public to be mindful of where they park their vehicles, especially at night. Avoid parking in dark areas. Avoid parking in between two vehicles that could obscure your vehicle from the view. We're asking members of the public to avoid leaving their vehicles parked in isolated places overnight. Remember to park your vehicles near entranceway, near windows, or closer to members of the public. Alarm systems are very effective, whereas, the minute you go close to a vehicle, the alarm sets off. It's an easy and, I think, inexpensive way of protecting your valuables.
She is also appealing to business owners to do their part in protecting customers that are in or near their establishments.
Business owners could help in the security of persons' vehicles or the public's vehicles who's patronizing their business by investing in more lighting around their business areas, or investing in CCTV cameras. Business owners should invest in CCTV cameras. It helps in the prevention of persons' vehicles being broken into. It protects their employees and persons purchasing items from their stores.
Pinder also has some advice for protecting your vehicles while in a residential neighborhood.
We're admonishing business owners or persons living in residential areas to always keep their areas well trimmed, their trees and shrubbery well trimmed. Because sometimes when you find that you have a high tree or high bushes in your area, it helps and aids in criminal activities where it protects the criminal who's not seen from the outside.
Now, while officers are reporting a slight increase of break-ins into the new year, Inspector Pinder says that it is important to be vigilant and proactive when it comes to protecting your vehicles and its valuables. Megan Shepard is ZNS Network News.
Stay with us. The Bahamas Tonight, the Northern Edition continues right after this.